What's going on, Bulls Nation? The 2025 NBA Draft is officially over, and the Chicago Bulls selected Noa Essengue with the 12th overall pick in the draft. This is going to be my initial thoughts and analysis video on the Bulls drafting Essengue. I know I'm a little bit late to this, but I still wanted to go ahead and give you guys my thoughts on the Bulls taking Essengue with the 12th overall pick. I have to say, I am pretty excited about this pick, so in this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys why I'm excited that the Bulls drafted Essengue, why I think the Chicago Bulls should be drafting guys like Essengue with their first round picks, especially with where they are in terms of roster construction and their asset pool. Then I want to talk about what I think Essengue can bring in terms of on-court impact in his early years in his career. Then obviously I need to talk about what I think he needs to develop as a player, especially if he wants to reach starter level play. And then I will finish off this video talking about what I think he needs to, what he needs to work out, but then what is his kind of long-term outlook as a player in terms of his potential and his upside. But before we get into it, I'll make sure to hit that like button if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. So to start off this video, why I am very excited, why I'm very excited the Bulls drafted Essengue here. First things first is that I just want to go ahead and just look at the NBA Combine measurements, and you can just kind of see here. Here's Essengue. He is 6'10" without shoes listed here at the Combine, so automatically we're talking about great size for a player. He has a 9'2" standing reach along with a 7'1" wingspan. So you can already tell that this guy is pretty physically gifted. These are kind of some measurements that it'd be like maybe it's like a an undersized center at like 6'10", but no, this is a forward who is coming in with these measurements. And reminder, he is only 18 years old, so who knows? Like, he might be able to still grow here and increase these measurements. But obviously he's pretty skinny, but these are pretty big physical gifts for a forward coming into the league at 18 years old. So that automatically is very intriguing to me. Then I go to the strength and agility stats here, and so it's one thing to have this size, this length, right? And then as we saw, it was as I'm sure you guys have seen in the film, his athleticism. But it's a whole other thing to put it all together and be able to move with it all well. And Essengue, as you can see here, his lane agility time is near the top in terms of all the people at the Combine. His three-quarter sprint is also near the top here. He listed right here. So you can tell that automatically I'm thinking to myself, this guy is physically gifted with his size, his length, and then he's also he's athletically gifted, and he moves really well even with all this size and length. So I am looking at this and I'm like, wow, this is something special here. Again, he is only 18 years old. He has a lot of room to grow here, and automatically I'm like, this is the sort of guy that I think the Bulls should 100% be looking to take. This is a guy that has that sort of two-way potential that we need on this Bulls team. But more importantly, this Bulls team overall just needs young talent, but they specifically need guys to have a high upside in terms of their young talent. And I think Essengue immediately brings that to this Bulls team. This Bulls team lacks overall just talent, but they also really lack young talent that has high upside, at least in my opinion. And I think Essengue just kind of, adds to what is missing for the Bulls at this current moment in time. So that's a big reason, automatically just a big reason why I'm a big fan of the Bulls drafting Essengue here with his measurements and also the other tests that he ran at the Combine, and then obviously just putting it all together and thinking about, oh man, what could he become is a big reason why I'm a huge fan of this pick. Now, let's talk about a couple of things in terms of what I also gets me excited about Essengue. So first off, with the film, this is not going to be a film breakdown video, that will be coming later, but when it comes to the film, Essengue just has this all these what I like to call eye-popping moments. It's with finishes at the basket, dunks, just covering a lot of space in a short amount of time on the floor. His overall game was eye-popping to me, and it's something that really excites me in terms of how that game is going to translate to the NBA level, especially as he gets older. That's something that I'm very, very excited about. So combine this all together with what I said about the Combine stats, and then obviously the stuff I've seen on film, I'm really, really excited when it comes to Essengue. So I'm looking forward to seeing his development here with the Bulls. Now, why should the Bulls be drafting a guy like Essengue with where they are right now? So if you have been following this channel, or if you have been following me on Twitter, you already know this. But if you're new to this channel, I have to admit, I have a pretty pessimistic view of this Bulls team right now. They're not really rebuilding. They're also not good enough to make the playoffs. But they also then only have their first-round picks besides the extra Portland pick, which might convey. So they have no extra first-round picks when it comes to their draft asset pool. The young players, while Buzelis is nice, and he's like by far your best trade asset, at least in my opinion at the moment, but I mean, let's be real, like, we're not trading him. Yeah, Giddy had a nice run to, like, you know, post-deadline run to the end of the season, but he's about to get paid here. So overall, though, when I look at the young core, if you want to call it, for the Bulls, I don't feel great about this young core. But adding a guy like Essengue to this young core makes me feel a little bit better about this young core. And if he shows, as he, you know, goes through his, like, 18, 19, 20 years in the league, if he shows more and more promise, then I feel a lot better about this young core. And at the end of the day, because of where the Bulls are, and where they currently are, but also just knowing how this Bulls team operates, I don't personally see a superstar on this team at the moment, and I don't see a projected superstar on this team. The Bulls also don't tend to trade for superstars, and even if they wanted to trade for a superstar, they don't have the asset pool to go and trade for one, and we know that this Bulls team is not going to be spending in free agency because they never do. So the odds of them getting a superstar really only comes down to the draft. And again, you're not really rebuilding, so you're not going to have a high overall pick, except, you know, with some lottery luck here. So I think that drafting a guy like Essengue who has that all-star type of potential is the absolute correct thing to do for the Bulls. Yes, there's a risk, but first and foremost, it's the 12th overall pick, not the 4th. Okay, I know some people are you know, comparing this to Patrick Williams, but this is the 12th overall pick. This is not the 4th. All right, but also, this Bulls team is not going to be winning anytime soon. I'm sorry. I don't want to be like the Debbie Downer here, but at least for me, like, they're not going to be contending anytime soon. I don't even think they're going to be a good playoff team anytime soon. So if there's a team that can wait around for a guy like Essengue to kind of figure it out, get acclimated to the United States, get acclimated to the NBA game, it's the Bulls. They have plenty of time to wait around to, you know, wait for Buzelis to develop, wait for other young players to develop here, along with Essengue, and they can wait around and afford to wait around for a guy like Essengue to kind of figure it out. So at the end of the day, that's the reason why I think this Bulls team needs to draft a guy like Essengue. You're right now, with where they're standing, they're not drafting up high in the lottery. They're drafting late lottery. Therefore, I do think you need to take a risk. And yes, Essengue, I am aware of the risk. I'm aware that he is very raw as a player. But I think this is a fine time to take a risk if you're the Bulls. I don't see a superstar on this team. I don't see a projected superstar. Hey, maybe Essengue could become that. It's a small chance, but I would much rather you take that small chance and go and take the risk, rather you than draft a guy that might be a little bit safer, but I really have much more doubts about him becoming a superstar, or even an all-star for that matter. So I think this is the perfect time to take a guy like Essengue, and I'm very happy that the Bulls did. I'm not sure if that was the thought process for the Bulls, for why they took Essengue, but hey, I'm glad that we did take him at the end of the day. So let's talk about what I think Essengue is going to bring to the Bulls immediately. First and foremost, I want to talk about is just dunks, you know, athletic finishes. That's going to be there pretty much right off the bat. He's a guy that can cover the floor very quickly, whether that's in transition or on defense. I do think that he can cover a lot of ground automatically on defense with his length, with just his big strides. He also, I think, has a really good motor, which is the reason why I am more hyped about him than compared to maybe some other prospects that might have some physical gifts. Like, it's one thing, again, to have all these physical gifts and athleticism, but then it's a whole other thing if you have that plus a motor, and I do think Essengue has a pretty good motor. He averaged 5 rebounds per game. For a skinny guy and only averaging 23 minutes per game, that's actually pretty solid. He also kind of has like a knack of getting like offensive rebounds here and there. And so I really do appreciate that part about Essengue's game. So I think he's going to bring that to the Bulls like pretty quickly in his early days with his Bulls team. I also think that probably his biggest asset right now in terms of impact for coming right into the league and like what can I do immediately to have an immediate impact in today's game. Down the road, obviously, I hope he has more impact than this, but what can he bring automatically? And the biggest thing is the transition game. So this is a tweet by Matt Powers. If you don't know who Matt Powers is, he's the co-founder of Switch Theory. Shout out to them. They do a great job with their stuff here. But Matt Powers decided to make this little graph here to show, hey, who are some of the best players that push the pace and then get fouls on their field goal attempts in transition opportunities. And by far and away, Essengue is like way up there, and he's in a league of his own, honestly, when it comes to this. When it comes to transition and when it comes to putting the pressure on the defense and forcing them to commit fouls in transition. Essengue is fantastic in, one, finding opportunities to get out in transition, two, being a threat already and using his size to his advantage to become that big target down the floor. But then at three, being able to get to the rim and put pressure against the defense and forcing them to make a decision, whether that's to foul them or just give up the bucket. He is already doing really well with this, and again, limited, not as many minutes, right, in the league that he's playing in. So it shows already that he has this ability to come right in and do this. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how he's gonna fit in with this Bulls team, where this Bulls team was one of the fastest teams in the league in terms of transition opportunities. Like they push the pace consistently, and I don't really ever draft prospects based off of fit with the team, but I do think Essengue is going to fit right in. So if this continues here, which I think it will for Essengue, I think he's going to come in and have an immediate impact in the transition game for the Bulls, and I'm looking forward to it this upcoming season. So that is the kind of big stuff that I think is going to have like an immediate impact when he comes right into the league. Other things too is just that I do think that his perimeter defense is going to affect some people. He has, some things to still work on defensively, but the length itself is a big tool in case of like if you do get beat off the dribble, or if you're facing a smaller guy who's quicker than you, that length really does a good job of kind of making up for a mistake. And I do think that you're gonna see Essengue and his length bother some people early on, even though he is pretty skinny on the perimeter here on the defensive end. So looking forward to that. Other thing that he will also bring, and this kind of ties along with his transition opportunities, is the free throws. He gets to the free throw line at a pretty good rate, as you can see here. Again, limited minutes, you're averaging 5 free throws in 23 minutes. Like, that's pretty good for, again, 18-year-old that is playing a lot off ball. So I think that this is going to be something, again, he's going to just kind of, with his overall build as a player, and with the motor that he has, I think he's going to draw a lot of fouls, which is a great thing. Definitely needs to work on his free throw percentage here, but that's a good thing if he's going to be drawing a bunch of fouls. So those are the things that, whether it's going to be a little bit or a lot, I do think he's going to have that sort of impact immediately in today's game. Now, in terms of what I do think he needs to work on, very clearly the biggest thing is the jump shot. Now, when I look at the jump shot, I do think that it looks okay. And because he is taller, he has a little bit more leeway with his jump shot. But when I look at it, like, there isn't like a big humongous hitch or anything in it. So I do think that there's gonna have to be some things kind of have to, get smoothed out here. But the jump shot overall, I think is okay for Essengue, and I think he can become a pretty good like catch and shoot 3-point shooter here. And if he is able to become that, that opens up a lot of things for him. And so I'm looking forward to seeing if he can develop that. That's going to have to be something that's going to take some time to develop. Like, I don't expect him to, suddenly figure out by year 2 or 3. But again, the Bulls have a lot of time to kind of wait around and see if he can develop that. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he can. Other thing too, I think this is kind of the biggest one, and that a lot of people had the biggest critique of when it comes to Essengue, is that he doesn't have much kind of like on-ball creativity right now. When I looked at prospects, I always kind of like put him in like 2 different categories. It's either you're a play finisher, which I would put Essengue in that sort of category, or you're a play creator. So obviously, if you're a play finisher, you're a guy who's being set up most of the time for your baskets. And so Essengue, in transition, he's being set up, right, and he finishes the play. Alley-oops, finishes the play. And then obviously catch and shoot 3-point shooters. The play was created for him to get that open look, and then he can maybe knock down the shot. Play creators are obviously guys that can have that ability to, right now at least, go ahead and have the ball in their hands and try to create advantages and either create a shot for themselves or for others. Right now, Essengue is very much a play finisher versus a play creator. And that's something that I am going to have to look into like as he gets older, is like, what is something in his arsenal that would be like in that play creator category, whether it's him being a post-up threat and being able to post up guys and have that little fadeaway, or have a post-hook shot or something like that. Something that is self-sufficient offense for him that is going to be needed. Now, the thing is that what I do think he already does have right now, and we'll see how effective it is going to be when he gets into the NBA here, but we've seen him already in his, this past year. Like, he is able to like come off like a screen, whether it's like a pin down or if it's like an Iverson type of action, and he's able just to kind of catch the ball and get the pass, catch the ball, and just go. And when he does that, it puts a lot of pressure on the defense already, because you're looking at a guy that can get to the basket pretty quickly with again, his length, athleticism, his size, his mobility. it puts a lot of pressure on the defense. So that's already kind of there for him. I want to see him kind of refine that and make that be like a big part of his arsenal, so that like teams are very scared of him, you know, just kind of catching and going, because he has that ability just to kind of do that. But then obviously it's, what are you able to figure out a way to not have to be kind of set up with like a off-ball screen for you to be able to get some points here? That's going to be something he's going to have to work on. Good thing for him though is that he has this large wingspan, he has the size that is going to help him create advantages to be able to find shots for himself that are kind of self-created. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he can develop that. Again, this is going to probably be something that's going to come a little bit more down the road instead of like maybe year 2 or 3 here, but he needs to show some flashes of it as we continue to see him grow. So I'm hoping to see those two specific areas of the jump shot and then self-creating ability to, you know, continue to improve as he goes along with his development. So those are the two biggest things. In terms of then like defensive area, I do think sometimes, and this is more of him just kind of being an 18-year-old prospect here, there is some discipline things. He does foul a little bit too much, and sometimes it's just kind of him being a little bit like unaware. He's kind of too focused on his man versus you know, paying attention to where the other action is. So there's a little bit of that going on for him that I think can be ironed out. And I do think that with his overall length and his size, he does, I think, need to kind of work on a little bit of his timing when it comes to blocking shots. When you go look at the film, he has some pretty like impressive block shots, especially for when he guards smaller guys. Like his length really makes up for any sort of mistakes he makes, and then he's able to block shots pretty impressively. But we have seen him at times where if he is able to kind of time things right, like he's able to really be a good rim protector. But it is something I think he's got to work on. So on the defensive end, it's going to be just kind of working on your discipline and working on your awareness a little bit, and working on your timings to kind of use all of your physical tools to the best of its ability. So I think defensively on the perimeter, he's going to come in and have, again, immediate impact. There are some things to refine, but I'm not going to be focusing too much on that when it comes to him. So those are the things that I think that he's going to, again, he has to work on immediately as he comes into the league. Like stuff that he's not going to have that immediate impact, but things that I think he can work on as he continues to go through the season into the next off season, like stuff like that I think is going to be automatically have to start working on as he gets to the Bulls here. So looking forward to seeing how he's going to grow in those categories. When it comes to the long-term outlook for Essengue here, so I know that, you know, some people are always throwing out the Giannis comparison, and let me tell you, there are some very similar things when it comes to Essengue and Giannis, and when Giannis was drafted. Now, Giannis is a once in a million type of player. Like he is something that I have never seen before. So the odds of Essengue becoming Giannis, I'm not really sure if he will ever get there. But I mean, there's a chance, but I'm not really like hell bent on like, oh, like I'm hoping that he's gonna get there. Now, I think that like a better comparison, and you know, shout out to Darius and my community for this, but I think that a better comparison is kind of how Pascal Siakam plays, and kind of maybe mold his game a little bit more towards Pascal Siakam. Now Siakam's only 6'8", so Essengue does have, you know, more size and a little bit more length compared to Siakam, but so maybe that's where he can kind of steal some things from Giannis. But I do think that Siakam's like a good game to kind of build around for Essengue. When it comes to Siakam, he's a very efficient three-point shooter. He shot 39% this past season from three-point range. However, when you go and look at his stats, like most of his three-point shots that he made were assisted. Hence, like Halliburton or others were setting him up for those three-point shots. I do think that's going to be kind of similar to Essengue, where he's going to have to become a very good catch and shoot three-point shooter and shoot it when you're open type of player. But ideally become very, very efficient in that sort of area. So become a very efficient catch and shoot three-point shooter with his size would be a fantastic development for him. So it opens up a lot of things. So that's kind of like, that's part of Pascal Siakam's game that I think he can kind of mold. But the other part of Siakam's game is the transition game. And we saw how much Siakam was very effective in transition in the playoffs. So I think already you're seeing in just the film from Essengue, like he is very effective in transition. And I hope that he can kind of steal things from how Siakam works in transition and use that as a big part of his scoring arsenal and putting the pressure on the defense, because having size to be able to move that quickly down the floor and be a big target puts a lot of pressure on the defense, and it's going to get you those free throws. It's going to get you those easy points. That's how he's going to be able to hopefully become an efficient scorer in the NBA consistently. So those are two big parts of Siakam's game that I'm like, hey, you can kind of probably mold yourself to that more compared to what Giannis does, right? I'm not sure if he'll ever have the ball handling skills that Giannis does. And like Giannis, you know, he's 7 foot and he is the Greek freak for a reason. He has the ball handling. He is a freight train running down the floor. So I don't know if he'll ever get to that point, which I hope he does. But again, that's a once in a blue moon type of player in Giannis. So Siakam, like the idea of Siakam, at least in my opinion, is kind of like where I'm thinking for Essengue. And hey, having a Pascal Siakam like player on this team, you know, two-way type of player, like he does a lot of things at all times for the Pacers. Like that's something very, very important in this league today. And I think it would be very valuable for this Bulls team moving forward. So Siakam is a 2-time All-NBA player. He's made 2 All-NBA teams. So hey, if Essengue makes 2 All-NBA teams, then I think that's an absolute win. Ideally, he makes more, but I think he has that potential to, you know, get to being an All-NBA type player if he's able to kind of put it all together. So that is my kind of outlook on Essengue, just to kind of, you know, kind of steal some things from some of the star players, but I think Siakam's kind of like the best sort of idea for what I think he can become. And I'm looking forward to seeing if he can become that sort of player with this Bulls team. But at the end of the day, this is a risk. I am aware that there is a risk when it comes to drafting a guy like Essengue here. But once again, I want to say this one more time. This is the 12th overall pick. This is not the 4th overall pick. This is not the 8th overall pick. This is the 12th overall pick, okay? The Bulls do not have the luxury to be drafting guys up in the high lottery, right? And those are guys that have some, you know, high potential, but also a little bit more safer in terms of what they can become as a player. The Bulls don't have that luxury because, yeah, they're stuck in this purgatory area where they're not rebuilding, but they're not good enough to make the playoffs, so we're stuck in hell right now. So hence why you get the 12th overall pick instead. So you're going to have to take a risk when it comes to this 12th overall pick if you want to draft a guy with all-star-like potential, and hence it's Noa Essengue. I am aware that there is also this whole, like, oh my god, PTSD the word development when it comes to this Bulls team, and especially with this front office regime. Like, I get it. Here's the thing, though, I just want to point out. Once again, P-Will is the 4th overall pick, which is why he's so disappointing. This is the 12th overall pick, okay? I think we are all very much aware of the risks when it comes to Essengue. But the other thing about this that I want to make clear, just because P-Will hasn't developed well, and you can argue also Dalen Terry, some people throw in Julian Phillips too, which I don't know why. He's a 2nd round pick, and I think honestly Phillips had a pretty good year last season, all things considered, for a 2nd round pick. But if you want to clump all those 3 players together and say the Bulls have failed to develop those guys, which they all have different things, you know, that make their development different. I won't get into it though, but if you want to say all 3 of them have failed to develop, I'll give you 100% P-Will. He has failed right now. Just because those 3 haven't developed does not mean that you should be passing up on a guy like this, at least in my opinion. I am aware that the Bulls right now, especially with this regime, has not been able to very clearly develop a wing level player right now under this current, you know, front office and also coaching staff with Billy Donovan at the head. But just because that has been the case does not mean that I think that this Bulls team can afford to pass up on a guy like Essengue who has all-star potential. Again, I don't see superstar level potential on this roster right now, besides maybe Buzelis, which I think is a long shot, and now obviously Essengue here, which again, it is maybe a little bit of a long shot here, but I think that he does have that all-star-like potential here that I just don't think the Bulls can afford to pass up on, especially with their current situation. So overall, I am pretty happy with this pick, with everything that I've said in this video. Talked about what I think Essengue needs to work out, what I think he's going to bring immediately, but why also I think that this is a perfect time to take a player like Essengue if you're the Chicago Bulls with the 12th overall pick. But at the end of the day, this is my opinion. I just want to make this clear at the end of this video that everything I have said here is my opinion. It is not, you know, I'm not here saying that this is the facts. This is just my opinion at the end of the day, and you have every right to disagree with my opinion. But all I ask for is that if you do disagree, and you have every right to, just be respectful to not just me, but to everybody in this community. We all love talking basketball here, and I want to make sure that this community stays respectful when it comes to us talking basketball. So go ahead and comment in the comment section down below your thoughts on the Bulls drafting Essengue, and make sure just to be respectful to everybody in this community. It's a great community, and I thank everybody that's been a part of this community. You guys have been amazing, and I hope to continue building on this community here. But with that being said, look forward to a Noa Essengue film breakdown video coming out here in a little bit. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.